It's like book club,
but it's more than books, and it's not quite a club.
Welcome to Savannah, Georgia's hottest new game show, Boy Knowledge. I'm going to test these two lovely contestants on their knowledge of what men are thinking. Contestant number one, what's your name? Where are you from?
Honored to be here. My name is Lily. I am from the West Coast, specifically Oregon. Willamette Valley represent.
Oregon. We got Portland there. A lot of granola crunching hipsters. Hopefully that gives you the boy knowledge you need to win today. Contestant number two, what's your name? Where are you from?
I'm Ansley, and I am from Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. A lot of boys who do fishing, hunting, a lot of great activities in the South. Maybe that gives you the boy knowledge to win this competition. For my lovely contestants, I have 10 boy knowledge questions. They are going to attempt to answer these questions faster than the other person. Whoever wins is going to win a prize.
Oh, I love prizes.
Are my contestants ready?
Readier than ever.
Yeah.
Question number one. Who is Nero?
Main character of The Matrix? No, that's Neo. Shit.
Like the Roman Emperor Nero?
Roman Emperor. Ansley gets it.
Oh my gosh, it always comes back to the Roman Empire.
Look, I was looking at your screen and I saw the longer question. I didn't realize that was a question, not a title above that. So I was like, wait.
I also was like, did not think that was a question.
Don't look at the screen.
And I glazed.
That's cheating.
Once I saw how long it was, I glazed out. Didn't even read a question. I was like, what is going on?
Question number two. Name a Major League Baseball player.
Babe Ruth.
Point for Ansley.
Okay, I was thinking alive, but I love that.
It works.
Question number three. What piece of equipment does a catalytic converter belong to?
Is car too vague of an answer?
Car. Ansley takes the point.
You see, I was going to say car too.
You got to be more confident, Lily. Question number four. In the manga and anime Dragon Ball Z, protagonist Goku fights many villains. Name one of them.
Pass.
My fiance is going to be so disappointed in me. Yeah, pass.
No points. Yeah. Question number five. World of Warcraft belongs to the video game genre MMORPG. What does that stand for?
Can you say the acronym one more time?
MMORPG.
I know OR is online role-playing game, and then it's multiplayer, but I don't know what the other M is.
Lily, do you have anything? No points. Bad day for the boy nerds out there. Which war does the Battle of the Bulge belong to?
The Civil War.
Ansley, do you have an answer?
The Revolutionary War.
Neither gets it. Question number seven. Name a type of boxing punch.
Uppercut.
That's one for Ansley.
When you said punch, I was literally thinking drink, and I was so confused. I was like, what drinks are boxers drinking?
Lily is the least boy that's ever existed. Question eight. What's the difference between a saltwater fishing rod and a freshwater fishing rod?
The hooks.
Ansley, do you have an answer?
Is the saltwater paint different, like to prevent it eroding off? I don't know.
Not the answer I was looking for. Question number nine. What are Air Force Ones?
Shoes.
Another point for Ansley.
And I knew that one, darn it.
Question number 10, the last question. Your best bro just broke up with his longtime girlfriend. What do you say to him?
Bros before hoes.
Lily, do you have an answer?
Your best bro just broke up with his long-term girlfriend. What do you say to him? Want to hang?
The answer I was looking for was, damn bro, that's crazy. No points.
Okay, but do you know what a schlong poofa is?
I do not know what a schlong
I don't know what that is.
Oh my goodness. It is the tool that, this is a niche reference. It's a girl question, okay? It's from Barbie Life in the Dream House. Ken has this schlong poofa, and it is like just this massive tool that like is carried around, doesn't really have a use. It goes on Barbie's car. So
Nice.
that's girl knowledge.
That's
right
girl
there.
knowledge.
Very
That's for the next quiz.
I do just want to ask, are these genuine, like, general knowledge boy questions? Like, would you anticipate that most boys know the answers to
I
these?
think if you averaged out every boy in the United States, this is a pretty United States-centric quiz. I think if you averaged out every boy in the United States, this would be a solid, like, 10 basic knowledge questions.
Nice.
Well, that brings us to the end of our game.
I did
Dominating
so good.
lead.
Yeah.
Lily with 0 points and Ansley with 5. The boyest boy in the podcast is Ansley, and Ansley wins a tape measure.
Oh!
It's a very boy gift. I appreciate this.
You're welcome.
My boyfriend's going to love this when I give it to him.
Welcome to Story Stack.
Welcome back. So today's episode, if you haven't been able to kind of guess so far, what are boys reading anyway, Gabriel?
That's right. So I'm leading the episode today, and I want to do an episode about what boys are reading. The best way to say this, I don't want to be reductive when I say this, but reading as a casual hobby has been full of a female audience for a long time. I would say probably for the past 20 years, it's been completely full of a female audience, and that is not a bad thing. But the inverse of that is true. There has been a sharp decline in male readers for a long time. And today I want to put a highlight on where did those male readers go and what are male readers reading today that are still reading.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm very interested to see like what you've brought us today, because I know that this is something me and my boyfriend have talked about a lot. The last book he read was Ready Player One, like in high school. And I feel like I go through like 5 books a week sometimes. And I mean, I know that he's expressed like he wouldn't be against reading. It's just not like it's not for him.
Mm-hmm.
I find it interesting realizing how many people don't read. Like the comment about your boyfriend not having like really read a full-length novel since high school is so crazy when there are people out there that are reading like over 100 books a year. And I think that when we are in our writer bubble, we are around a lot of people that are very like big readers. And I mean, there's some more than others, I'm sure, but like I think the general consensus is that most of us are reading really regularly. And I guess I've only ever read as a woman. And so when I go into bookstores and I'm looking at things, I'm not thinking about like what is being catered to me or not. And then when I think about like certain things, like going into the like young adult section and whatnot, and like all the covers are like with girl characters like on the very front. And I think that it's like it is super popular. And I've never felt that there was like a lack of space for me in especially like young adult fiction that I guess I didn't think about the boys that weren't reading.
Well, so to kind of lay out the idea of the episode here, it is, I think, incorrect to say that there's been a decline in male readership over the past, let's say, 20 years. Because there's been a decline in overall readership for the past 20 years. I think we have a lot of metrics about this, that the reading is down across the board. And you can attribute that to a lot of things. I think they're valid. Like the growth of the movie industry, social media, and just generally the internet becoming more and more a part of our lives. I saw a statistic the other day that talked about how we currently are actually reading more as a society than we ever did. It's just social media related things on our phones, which is a fascinating frame of reference to put this all in, because we are reading more, just not in a cohesive narrative way.
That's kind of crazy to think about. Like, that's not wild to me at all that that's true. I've just never thought about it. Like, it's so easy to be like, oh, people aren't reading anymore. And it's like, well, they're not reading books anymore. But now that you say it, like, I do read a lot on my phone.
We do have a lot of things competing for our attention, and probably a lot more now than we, ever had in the past, as like we've kind of established social media and television have like they arguably have like blown up they've blown up so much in the last social media in just the last 20 years, and like television since, I don't know, the dawn of television. And like there's all like video killed the radio star and everything. Like we've been going through like technological advances. Now, I don't know if I would count scrolling on TikTok as reading, even if there's words. I'm not arguing that we're not reading on our phones. Like I won't like read a long post that someone has, thoughtfully placed out with, that is literary based, or like reading articles that come up on my phone, or seeing something on social media and then going and doing research on like, wait, is that true? Is that actually happening? Oh my gosh. Like, I don't know how much people were reading in general, like before technology, because I think technology also makes reading books easier than ever. Like, how often are you able to like get a list of actual books like curated for you, and technology gives us access to all the books. You wouldn't even know about, I don't know, a ton of books if we didn't have technology. Like there's so much more content in our face, and maybe that's overwhelming too about why people are like not reading books, is because now we have, you know, 1 million books to choose from, where before we only had like 1,000.
So this is a interesting point that you bring up of how technology has made it easier to be a reader. And that is true. So I did some research for this episode, and there's this fascinating study from University of Florida that talks about, well, okay, so one, if you look at the data since 2003, I believe, reading for pleasure has overall been down by 40%. We're talking a pretty drastic sustained incline. But it also talks about the fact that the people who are readers are actually reading more than they were pre-2003. So what we're seeing is the book publishing market is making a big focus on, instead of casting a wide net for readership, they're doubling down on people who are dedicated readers.
Yeah, I definitely could, and it's like a very much money based now, because there's more and more money being poured into these like publishing deals, because the readers that are reading to an insane amount. And as we've established, like there are so many books to choose from. How do you decide which ones? Well, the publishing houses decide which ones get the most backing behind them, which ones are put in the front of the bookstore, which one gets the displays, gets the social media posts on the publishing house's page, and gets the, you know, author interviews like up, and makes efforts to collaborate with book tours, all that sort of stuff. And they're, yeah, like you're saying, catering to the readers that are the ones reading the most, and they're not necessarily making an effort for the ones that aren't.
I also think too, we talked about this a little bit in the Germany episode with fanfic, and like with new book releases, I feel like it's really common for new books to be published and like marketed as like Thorns and Roses meets The Love Hypothesis, which I haven't seen that. But like the point is that books are being pitched by referencing themselves to other books as like being weird mashups of books. And I think like it's the same thing of just like these even new releases are just feeding back into the same fandom circles, and it's just like feeding itself over and over again.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I see it every time that I see book discussions, is that when new books are being promoted, they're only being promoted in the realm of other books. It's like it's a Ouroboros, like eating its own tail. Like that's kind of the current state of the industry.
In fact, when writers are querying agents, oftentimes they're asked to give comp titles, and like sometimes 5. And I mean, you're having to come up with multiple books that have enough market appeal that an agent's going to be like, yeah, you didn't just like pull this book that sold 2 copies 50 years ago and say you're like that. Like they want to see that your book has success potential, but not so much that they're like, you chose Percy Jackson. Like that, like you need to at least know your genre a little bit more and not just be like the service level, like most popular book in your genre. But like they're asking for comp titles because they want to know that it has mass market appeal.
So I want to make a point of distinction before we continue on in this episode. So the main topic of this episode is why are boys not reading and how can we get them reading more? The point I want to make is that, like I said earlier, reading is down across the board. So, for example, reading is down for minorities, people from lower income households, people from rural areas. If you fit into all 3 of those and you are a boy, there is an astronomical chance that you're not reading books for pleasure. The only demographics where reading is being sustained or maybe even increasing is people of a higher education and women. These other groups are having their own struggles with finding readership, and I want to recognize that. But for the purposes of today in this episode, we're talking about boys. First of all, do we even need to be reading for pleasure? Like, that's the whole crux of this episode, is that how do we get boys reading again? Do they even need to be?
I think so. I think that we talked about this a lot with the Stranger Things episode last week, or the week before, of the idea that when you go from like written text to visual media, you have to cut certain things. Like it's a different medium. It serves a different purpose. And I think writing and the written word has such a unique way with interiority of a character. And so when you watch something on the screen, like you see these characters acting in a certain way, you can, you watch them make their decisions, but that's what you do in real life anyway. And you're still not ever in anybody else's head to like fully understand their actions. And with reading, you can be like, you get into people's head. Lolita, I think, is a perfect example of this. Even though that's like a completely wild head to be in, there was no way for you to have that experience if you didn't read that book. You know what I mean? And so I think with reading for pleasure, it's one of the only ways that you could practice empathy, I think.
Yeah.
Without having to like actually interact with other people. Like it is true practice. You get experience being in somebody else's head and understanding why they do the things they do, even if you wouldn't do them yourself.
I mean, not to disagree so quick. I mean, I agree that I think reading is a practice of empathy, and that is one of the reasons why reading fiction is so important. Like some people will try to write off reading fiction, like, but if you're reading, like, you should spend your time reading real stuff, as if fiction isn't very valid and important for, I mean, developing empathy and going through different types of stories, whether they're real or not, experiencing different worlds, whether they're real or not. But I mean, in certain, like, I would say that people are going to argue that television can do the same thing, where you are following one protagonist, you are seeing their life, how they are treated, how they respond to the world, whether you're in their head and hear their thoughts or not. There's a lot of visual implications in television that you don't get in like books. So I think that there would be the argument that also kind of helps you develop empathy.
I mean, sure, I'm not trying to exclude other types of mediums from being a practice in empathy, but we talked about it last week with Percy Jackson, of like with the books, you're in his head the whole time. You can connect to this boy from the time he's 12 to he's like 17, I think, in the last one, because you have access to his immediate train of thought. And so, yeah, with the show, like we're seeing things play out, and sometimes that's for the better. Like I talked about with like the fatal flaw and loyalty and that making more sense to see that on the screen. But I would still argue that books get you closer to a character and further inside their head because you literally have access to their thoughts in a way that you don't have in other mediums.
Not to gang up on you, Lily, but I got to agree with Ansley on this one. I mean, I'm the one who made this episode, and obviously I had an answer to this question, but I do think that is the unique thing about books, is that they get you deeper into living inside of another person in a way that no other medium can, and it's a tool of radical empathy. Like if you are a regular reader, you are regularly inhabiting different viewpoints and different perspectives, and it may give you a better outlook on the world.
Okay, I'm not trying to like get the readers like listening to this podcast against me. Like I'm a reader, okay? I read regularly. I don't know. I would say I'm a reader. I will stand by that. I also like shows. And if you feel like you get the same thing from reading and shows, why would someone that feels like books aren't for them ever pick up a book when they could just watch a TV show and that's so much easier? Like, that's what they're doing. Instead of reading a book, they're like, oh, you're saying it's empathy. Well, I think I get empathy from my television show. Regardless of, even if I agree with you that reading is a deeper level of empathy. And I also, to like hype up reading, think that in a way that television does not, it forces you to slow down a bit more. You can't rush through a 500-page book with full comprehension. Like you are going to have to sit down with it the way that you can kind of like zone in and out of like a 2-hour movie. And like it takes you longer to get through a book than a movie. And that requires you to be in the heads of these different perspectives for longer. And I think attention spans are not great right now in anybody, that it's important to read to find those moments of slowing down, whether that's reading or whether that's baking or whether that's going outside and gardening, like finding those moments where you are not like jumping from one thing to the next every 30 minutes. And I think reading's important in that way.
I also, just as a quick note on the attention span, obviously it's very easy to feel very pessimistic about the state of things and about like being so ingrained with technology and social media. But I do think, at least among our generation and of people already in our circles, like in the college environment, I do feel like there's some hope, because I know people personally that have like acknowledged this and are intentionally trying to do things differently. Like we have a friend that is no longer consuming short form media. Like he is only doing long form media.
Good
when
for
he
him.
sits down,
So
like,
healthy.
he's not scrolling on TikTok. He's watching video essays on YouTube. He is, I don't even think he's watching TV. Like I think he's watching movies. And then I know people in classes that have like deleted all social media off their phone. Like they don't go on anything. And so I think that we're at a really good time for like to be having conversations like this.
Beautifully said. All right, so moving on here. The next point is, if boys aren't reading, what are they doing? And the short answer to this is they're playing video games. Now, I'm going to have some stuff to say about video games and gamer culture, and I want the boys out there and my girl gamers out there to know I'm not coming for you. I'm a gamer. I played Expedition 33 this year, won Game of the Year last year. I'm tuned in with you. I'm a gamer. However, around 2003, which is when we start seeing the massive decline of readership across the board, is also the same year that the video game industry as an industry started really picking up and finding its foothold in mass culture. And it made a direct focus on young men. If you go back and look at like video game advertisements from the early 2000s, they wanted boys. They wanted boys to create video games as their identity. And that has persisted all the way through until today. Like there's not many boys who read, but I think you would be hard pressed to find a boy that doesn't play video games.
I play Minecraft sometimes.
Hell yeah.
And I read. So yeah, watch out.
I think there is such a deeper thing to that too. In like with modern video games like becoming more, I guess, like casting a wider net on players as far as like gender. I often still struggle. Like when I hear video games, like I think of more traditionally male dominated games like Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, like things like that. And I have to remind myself of like, no, if somebody says they're a gamer, it might be like Animal Crossing. Those are still video games. I think it still has such a deep cultural thing of being a boys thing.
There is like the whole corner of video games that are like cozy games. And I think that is almost like a more feminine catering side of video games. So it's really interesting to like see a corner of what is probably like still remains to be like a male dominated field. Like seeing a corner that is kind of actually reaching out and trying to get like more women into video games. I mean, they're marketing it as cozy video games, so it's like doesn't seem scary because like I don't know if like, because what appeals to women is like it's not going to be the same stuff that you used to market to men back in the early 2000s. You're going to have to like shift perspectives a little bit to get a new audience.
I mean, you're already ahead of me in my notes because frankly, the video game industry has already started figuring it out of how to get more women involved in playing video games. And I think the book publishing industry is behind on that aspect and the inverse of it, of figuring out how to get more men into reading. It is a completely untapped market. Instead of following the same demographics that the book publishing industry has a stranglehold on with, the romantasy genre. If you ask me, I think the romantasy genre has hit peak readership. Like, I feel like there's nobody left to bring in to the genre.
Yeah, I mean, I read somewhere earlier that Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros combined, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses and Fourth Wing, combined sold like 3 million copies last year. Like, that's a big number.
The only growth for them as individuals is probably just like releasing more stuff, like coloring books and novellas
And pivoting into other mediums, because
Yeah.
both of them have been
Yeah.
like circling TV and movie deals.
All right, so boys stopped reading because of video games and also social media and a litany of other reasons. But I think an interesting thing to analyze is why women never stopped reading, at least since the early 2000s. And as far as my research could take me, I think the absolute easiest answer to this is Twilight. Twilight was a huge hit, came out in 2005. It completely dominated the market for young women, and it, correct me if I'm wrong, my co-hosts, was the foundation for all of the romantasy that we see today.
I'm trying to think if I would call Twilight the foundation.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that it is a romantasy, but I think it laid the groundwork for everything that we're seeing today.
yeah. I suppose like interest, like as far as like I can't think of. Okay. I just might be super uneducated, and someone will be like, "Ugh, that book published in the '80s got us all like bothered." But like Twilight was, I think, a phenomenon in the sense of like you had large groups of mostly women like talking about these characters, Edward and Jacob, and their relationship to Bella, and like, were you team Jacob? Were you team Edward? Team Jacob, by the way, but also don't come for me.
That's so wrong.
I know, it's such a wrong take, and it's like I just like opened a can
Lily.
of worms here. Okay, it's not my fault that Stephanie Meyer was wrong for what she did in the fourth book. Okay, that was that Breaking Dawn. That was her issue. Jacob before that.
Are we
great.
talking about the imprinting?
Yes,
Yeah,
because
that was
that's
weird.
what's
That was
messed
weird.
up. That's
But
what
also,
messed up.
he kissed Bella without her consent, and then Edward punched him in the face for it, and did the whole. Jacob was like, she doesn't know what she wants, and Edward's like, well, next time ask, which was possibly the hottest scene in the whole franchise.
Okay, fair enough. When it's been a minute since I've read the books, like actually read them, I just remember being so pissed at Edward for like constantly thinking that he knew what was best for Bella and making decisions for her. Like, it's kind of like what Jacob did, but like different, because he was like, oh, I'm gonna go away for your safety, and you might be crying and you might put yourself in danger actually for me because I know you, but like, I'm going to pretend like you're not going to put yourself in danger for me, and I'm going to go run off when you're in your most vulnerable state. Yeah, bye. Meanwhile, Jacob was overall like this really caring like friend when Bella actually was at her lowest and needed a friend most. The kissing thing, don't remember that, but also was just a girl that liked Jacob more and also found Taylor Lautner to be hotter than what's his face? No, oh my gosh, his name.
Robert Pattinson.
Yes. Oh my gosh, he was literally like sexiest man alive or something at some point.
Oh my God.
Okay, I can't help the fact that I thought Taylor Lautner was hotter. I can't, and I think I
Wait.
still stand by that. I don't think that Robert Pattinson is ugly. I don't. Taylor Lautner is just hotter.
We ju-
Gabriel, I'm sorry that we've derailed.
We're
no,
so pivoting.
what I was thinking is the fact that we just lost our like 1% of male listenership. Like they thought that this was the episode for them, and now they're gone. But it's fine. Hey, you know, I'm here for the girlfriends. You want to get your boyfriend into reading? That's what I'm here for.
To circle back, I
Wait.
I think Twilight laid the foundation for the culture
Yes.
of romantasy.
Yeah.
I don't think it
Yeah.
laid the textual
And
material.
that was what I was actually trying to get to, because yeah, like that was like a crazy like midnight screenings,
Yeah.
women with t-shirts with people's names on them, and the books themselves were like massive hits and obviously caused such a stir that like the movies were made and
Right.
all that. But yeah, textual foundation I think is different.
For the record, I'm team that one vampire girl with the pixie cut.
Oh my gosh, Alice!
Yeah, that one.
Yes. Okay, we do love Alice so much. Like she is the icon that holds up the entirety of the series.
They ignore her freaky ass boyfriend with the eyes.
And ignore the fact that her hair is like different in every single movie. Like, there's only one iconic vampire with a pixie cut, and that is Alice.
Okay.
Back to boys.
Back to boys. So we've established that we lost male readership in we lost male listenership. We lost male readership in mid 2000s with the rise of video game culture, but we kept female readership because of things like Twilight. Like the industry of promoting narrative to women, it didn't need to change. Like they saw Twilight and they were like, the girls are already here, let's keep marketing to them. But now we're in 2026, and I want to ask the question, is there currently a genre that could do for male readers what Romantasy did for female readers? And I pose that question because I have an immediate answer. Yes. It's called the LitRPG genre. And thanks to my questions earlier, you should both know what RPG stands for.
Yeah.
Yeah, role player game.
What did the second M stand for World of Warcraft?
Yes.
World of Warcraft is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game.
Massively multiplayer.
Online.
I feel like I should have gotten
No,
that
because
point.
that like low key, like why are we putting massively in front?
Right.
Like it's still multiplayer. At the end of the day, that extra N
That's
seems
stupid. I should have gotten that point.
that seems a little silly. There actually probably is like a number out there where it's like, no, you're like massively multiplayer once you reach this
It's like
many
the
players.
differences between like a village and a town.
Exactly.
Like
No
population
one
sizes.
actually cares. It's multiplayer, but then the game we're just losing the gamers, I think, left
Yeah.
and right on
Lit
here.
RPG.
There goes the
Go,
point.
Gabriel.
All right, so LitRPG, it stands for literary RPG. It's a genre that involves characters being transported to a fantasy or sci-fi world where they progress the plot using video game conventions. These characters exist in a world that is a video game. Like, for example, they can literally pull up in front of themselves like a video game menu that tells them what level they're at, what equipment they have, how to upgrade, maybe even like skill point branches that they can put points into.
Would this be sort of similar to the Minecraft movie with them like actually being able to like take the pickaxe to the thing and it like do it how it would have done it in the game?
Yo, I did not even think of that connection. The Minecraft movie is absolutely a lit.
Okay.
Well, it's a movie, but it is the same idea of like what a lit RPG is. So like this is a very niche fledgling genre. It does not have that large of a readership, but the thing that is fascinating about that is that it currently has a dedicated reader base that is like 80 to 90% male. And in the current literary landscape, that is an insane statistic. There's only one other genre that has a statistic like that, and that is Westerns. And if I'm being frank, the male readership of Westerns is 70 plus and not around for this world that much longer. So I do not think that Westerns are a good place to look at for the history of how to get boys into literature. Anyway, so this lit RPG genre, it really makes sense when you think about it. It's a little hokey, I think, the idea of like, I'm in a video game now and all of my gamer knowledge can take me so farther than anybody else in this world. Like, I'm here promoting this genre. I think it's I think the premise is a little much for me. But it really does make sense that the video game industry spends the past over 20 years very strongly courting a young male demographic. So we've reached this point where the most appealing way to get boys back into reading is to make books video games.
But I also think too, like, yes, I can see the premise being a little silly, a little corny sometimes. But I think it's from a completely outsider perspective, learning about this today, it feels like it's a very fresh way of doing it. Because we were talking earlier about like books being pitched with their relation to other books. I feel like I'm just reading the same book over and over again. Mm-hmm. And this sounds like something so unique and different. I feel like it would still like I would be excited to read one of these even with the kind of corny moments.
How do these sort of books work as far as like establishing the rules in the world without it being a fantasy?
So for the purposes of this episode, I listened to the audiobook of Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is one of, if not the most popular lit RPG series right now. And the premise of that works is that there is like this alien invasion that is just like omnipotent aliens. Like there's no way you're going to beat these aliens. And then they turn the world into a video game that the main character has to like navigate through. A pretty wild premise when you lay it out like that. However, I can attest as somebody who, wow, there's no way to say this without sounding pretentious. My reading interests lean more literary. As somebody who is usually found reading literary fiction, let's say, I could see the appeal. Like, it reminded me actually of reading Percy Jackson, which I did for the episode before this, of it's so fast paced, so focused on keeping your attention. Like, I remember this with Percy Jackson. Sometimes I feel like I saw entire 3-act structures in one page, and I felt the exact same thing with reading through Dungeon Crawler Carl, is that much like a video game, it wants very small moments of downtime. It's go, go, go. And it's frankly a power fantasy, but at this point we have such low male readership in general that, like, as long as it's unproblematic, like, have your power fantasy. Like let's be in a video game world where you know how to break the rules and you can shoot a fireball at level 3.
But that's fun. Like, I'm fully on board with this. I think that in a very broad general sense, wanting somebody to do something differently than how they're doing it. So, like, wanting boys to read books when they're not reading them right now. The only way you can do that is to meet them on their level and appeal to their interests. You're never going to do it by like pulling the power cord on the computer and being like, you need to read more. No, like, that's not going to work. That's going to make it more resistant. So I think that this is a perfect answer to it. And I think too that it paves the way for so many fresh voices in the publishing community, because I'm assuming that the people that are writing the like this is new material. We're not seeing the same romantasy authors and friends of romantasy authors getting published. Like, this is all new.
And I also think that a part of, like, having the benefit of having something new is great, but also the goal isn't, or the thought process isn't like, oh, well, this is all boys can handle, or video game books. Like, they're never going to branch out to anything else. The problem is that there is, like, nothing. There's no, like, gateway books for them that kind of exist in the middle. There are some, but, like, I want to say YA is so heavily, like, dominated by, like, usually, like, young adult romances. Like, that is so much of the YA section of any bookstore that the options for them are either, like, middle grade stuff or then jumping straight into adult. And, like, there's really not that bridge in between. And that's, I think, why, like, boys stop reading so much after their school library no longer, like, has stuff for them, and then they never get back into it. This is, like, the best gateway drug because, Gabriel, correct me if I'm wrong, but as a man, do you just want to read, like, role play game book adaptations? Because you just mentioned that you were interested in reading literary fiction. So, like, this is just a way to get that bridge of male readership to the point of realizing that they like reading. They can continue to like this lit RPG genre, but also reading, like, they might discover the fact that they maybe want to read a literary fiction novel, and they, like, it's just creating space for them in a place that might look overwhelmingly dominated by, like, gross romances that, like, they're, I don't know. I feel like boys are not interested in reading romance when they are, like, 13. At least a lot of them. There's definitely some, but, like,
I feel like a lot of the male interaction with reading that I see now, like, scrolling, for the most part, is men that are, like, promoting something. It's either, like, a band or, like, a musician. Like, they're trying to raise their audience, grow their audience, are turning to romantasy books as, like, their gate to a female audience, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, there are musicians that are like, I want to reach more women, and they're, like, pulling Akatar off the shelf or something.
Well, it's like, even, I want to say it's Alex Warren that was trying, when he was, like, promoting his song Ordinary, which won awards and such. It's a good song. He was, like, literally talking about, like, how it's his, he wants it to be the song of the main couple in Fourth Wing. Zayden and Iris?
I think
No,
Violet.
Violet. Different color, flower, whatever. Purple. And, like, how he was like, this is their song, their couple. And then, of course, Book Talk picks it up. And Book Talk is such a huge, like, market that I think any niche that can hack Book Talk gets instantly like so much more faces on the content.
I wanna say here, personally, I think the term performative male is a bit of a reductive term that really like throwing it around only seeds division and dissent among just people trying to get along. And I give that preface because that's the most performative shit I've ever heard.
But that's how it is. It is like
Oh.
100%.
Oh,
Book
not
talk.
you, Lily. The thing
I thought you were
talking
accusing
about.
me of being performative. I was so panicked for a second. I'm like, am I gonna get canceled? No, yes, people like trying to hack book talk. Yeah.
It's because when you say like people trying to hack book talk has become synonymous with the romantasy reader, which for the most part is a woman aged anywhere between like 20 to 40s, like early 50s range. And it's almost always sexual in some relationships. So like in these videos of like men trying to hack book talk, most of the time it ends up being one of those like corny ass book talk sexy songs that they pick to be like the sound of the video. It's like it just feels performative.
Okay, all of that interesting content aside, what I want to say, and I want to kind of bring this episode to an end by giving a direct appeal to whatever male listenership we have left, and also to the girlfriends out there who have boyfriends, to the men who I see this a lot in my day-to-day life of talking to guys who say something like, I used to read a lot and I don't read anymore, or I just feel like it's something that's not for me. And I want you to know that your feelings are valid and it's really not your fault. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but the machinations beyond your control have made it to where reading in the modern day is just not an appealing activity to a lot of men out there. I mean, the video game industry completely invested billions, trillions of dollars in capturing male attention. And then the book industry, kind of in a response to that, I might even say, focused on doubling down on getting more women to read. So you're a man in the modern day and you don't feel like books are for you. The whole point of this episode was to highlight that and to highlight how there is currently a genre that is trying to make books for you. So I highly recommend checking out LitRPGs. If I know the guys like I think I do, I think you'll enjoy them. I'm going to give some recommendations of ones you might enjoy. There's Dungeon Crawler Carl, which I read for the purposes of this. It was great. I had a lot of fun. I actually want to read the next one, and that's what I've heard from everybody who has read these, is that you read the first one and you're like, that was just fun. Let's see where this goes. There's also He Who Fights with Monsters. That's, I believe, like the second most popular one. And then there's The Wandering Inn, which has an incredible credit of that it's like one of the longest continuing stories that is currently being written. So there's a lot of content out there. Boys, you can read, and there's good stuff out there for you.